Every round of offense starts with 5 players and a bomb. From here, you must push a site, plant the bomb, and play post-plant in order to win rounds. 3 basic steps, yet the possibilities are endless. So let's make it easy. Step 1. Push a site. The most basic play every offensive team does is 5-man push. It is easy and doesn't require much coordination, making it great for any group's first couple attempts at winning. Plus, it is the easiest way to outnumber your opponents in order to win the early trade battle. Perfect. Now that we can win every round with a simple strategy, what else is there really to talk about? Wait, we lost? Grouping and rushing a site is a great way to win rounds, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. That's why I will give you a few specific ways to increase the chance of success that don't require much effort. Way 1. Go before the defense has time to rotate. 5-manning sites requires speed, not because you want to end the round quickly, but because you can't give time for the defense to round up their entire team in order to stop you. The longer you wait, the more likely it is that you have to face 4+ members from the enemy. This is the rule. Hit in the first 15 to 20 seconds, or rotate and retake the other side of the map. Don't wait for all 5 defensive players to hold the one choke point you need to walk through. Way 2. I have superpowers. Ults like KJ often guarantee your team entrance onto a site. I mean, the entire defense has to leave the area or get stunned for like 10 seconds. Another great ult is Yoru. Don't know where or how many enemies are on site? Might as well just use a hack that lets you see everybody with no chance of dying. Ults are the best way to make any 5-man hit have a much higher chance of success. Pay attention to yours, but don't forget the enemies at the same time. Way 3. Have flank trips. Worst case, you get stopped, and instead of hitting, you walk back and retake the rest of the map. But what if you didn't have to worry about the rest of the map at all? Cypher is pretty much the only agent that can protect you and the far flank, but he is pretty relevant in most games. If you find yourself 5-manning a lot and struggling to take the site, but you have a Cypher, have them place trips on both your close flank and the far flank in order to hold a larger portion of the map. 5-manning is the easiest strategy for offense. Little teamwork is required, and great things can happen. If you find your team 5-manning, remember your winning formula. Go fast or don't go at all. Look at your team's ults that can instantly get us onto the site, and having rotating utility can make life easier for us if we get stopped. On the other hand, if you find your team doing these things, like losing control of the rest of the map without getting onto the site, or getting gunned down because everybody is flooding through a single choke point, or maybe nobody is running in because everybody's scared of dying, you should look to try out strategy number 2 for getting onto a site. Forewarning. Just like in the 5-man strategy, the larger group of 4 should still look to take a site normally. All that changes is the fact that you have a player lurking. Generally a sentinel, but it can also be agents like Viper or even Reyna. The advantage of this lurking player is that the group no longer needs to rush onto the site before the defense all rotates, as it is actually beneficial to run the strategy when you know the defense is not leaving a player anchored on the opposing site. Here are the new rules when you are running the strategy. The 4-man group should continue to try to take a bomb site, but can play slower and doesn't need to dive bomb in like a 5-man group does. Rotate to your lurker if you get stopped and can't hit the site after 20 seconds. Lurkers should look to take as much space as possible while not dying. These rules are pretty simple, but can rely too heavily on your lurker at times. If the lurker finds themselves getting caught out or simply isn't doing anything while the 4-man group is going on to a site, it can leave your team pretty annoyed at the player that has no value in the rounds. The last strategy is defaulting. This is the hardest to know what outcome you will get when it is called, as your team can often lose early gunfights, resulting in a very hard round to win. If you don't know what defaulting is, it is when everybody in your team basically spreads out and does their own thing, looking for gunfights wherever they are or to take any space that they can. A solid default occurs when one teammate gets a kill anywhere on the map. When this happens, your team is supposed to take that win and rush toward it, hopefully giving you a free bomb site or more easy gunfights for you to win. If you find yourself in a default, here are some solid rules to follow. Play a mild aggressive early round. Don't push too fast, but don't sit back and do nothing. If nothing occurs in the first minute of the round, look to either make a more aggressive play or call a play for your team to make. There is no reason to continue defaulting in the last 40 seconds of a round when something needs to happen. Lastly, defaulting is generally a good call on eco rounds. as trying to catch a defensive player out while you have sheriffs or low buys is better than attempting to overrun a site with these poor weapons. Defaulting is a risky call to make. You don't know what your teammates will do, or if anyone will make a successful play. I don't recommend defaulting if your team is losing these rounds in the first 15 seconds. Now that you have some easy ways to get on the site, let's quickly explore step 2 of offense, planting. Whether you are 5-manning, 4-manning, or defaulting, all that matters is getting onto sites and planting. But do you know where and how to plant most efficiently? Planting might seem easy, and most of the time it is. Just plant default, dummy. And this is true on many sites, like Icebox's B-bomb site. There's basically only one spot you can plant most of the time, or on a Sense A-bomb site, where the generator plant is often what you would do. But aside from these cases, you should at least be aware of other great plants on every site. Let's take Haven's C site for example. Everybody plants default, and in almost every situation, this is fine. When you plant default, your only options are to play on site or long. However, if you decided to plant next to the plat at any point, your options now become so much greater. You can still play on site like before. Backing up main is another great option, or perhaps you would like the option to flank garage. Wait, you can see the bomb from CT too? So many options to play. Another great example is Icebox's A site. All too often, players plant safe in this little cubby, and all too often, it is the reason rounds are lost. By simply waiting until you have more control of the site, then planting under rope or generator, all the options of seeing the bomb expand. Default is fine, but knowing your options of better plants can win rounds that were previously lost. Second point to consider when planting, where are my teammates? Every plant that happens needs to be considered of your teammates. If they can't see it, you planted poorly. Take this fade for example. We get good control of site, front, and a little bit of the back. So she plants backside. This plant is, well, bad. Not only is backside hard to hold, our chamber has all of mid-map control, making it impossible for him to see the bomb if needed, and making the front bomb plant better in this case. Understanding where your teammates are when you plant should change how and where you plant in most rounds. Third and last point. Clutching around or being in a clutch scenario destroys normal planting procedures. I almost always try to plant in hard to defuse spots when I am in a clutch. If we simply remember point 1 on Haven, the more open we plant, the more options we have to play. Hard defuses and clutches not only make your life so much easier, it almost makes the defensive player's life impossible. Whenever you can, plant as open as you can. Now that the bomb is down, let's move to the final step, post-plant. Post-plant is all about understanding the situation you find yourself in. Does the enemy have more members alive than I do? Are we even in numbers? Or does my team outnumber our enemies? Specifically, when the enemy outnumbers your team, there should always be a clear goal in mind. Play aggressive and stupid, in order to even the numbers back into my favor. Like this Yoru, who is sending it onto the site in order to make a play. You should often look to be the aggressor in these situations. The more time you give the defense to group up and play trades, the worse off you will be. But this only applies to when you are outnumbered. On the contrary, if you find yourself in an even or outnumbering situation, you can play a more free-flowing round. Meaning you have the option to get aggressive, where everybody on your team pushes and looks to trade each other out without giving the defense time to think about a retake. Or perhaps your team is more passive and just holds angles on site together. This is fine as long as you hold angles for each other and don't overextend, giving free kills without allowing for a trade. Or finally, you make the safest play, backing up main and waiting for the bomb to be tapped. Luckily, every option has one thing in common: team play. When you are even or ahead, everything comes down to playing with your team. Problems only occur in these situations when some players get aggressive, get picked off one by one, and leave a separate teammate to clutch the round. Pay attention to your teammates' tendencies and join in. Offense doesn't have to be hard. Take a site, plant efficiently, and play post-plant according to your numbers. Simply by keeping it simple and choosing an effective initial plan, many rounds can be won before anything even happens. Keep it simple, dummies. Valorant is only as easy as you make it, so stop making it so difficult.